He's been standing there for about 20 or 30 minutes. He's also been talking about murdering people and taking part in a murder. He seems to be stimming, but he isn't acting like he's autistic. He's in this park. This is a skate park. There are kids here. The guy was sitting on the bench. Claire had told me that there was a guy who was kicked out of Helping Hands, and he's got a story to tell. And maybe my channel would be able to help him out. So she described the guy a little bit, said he was bald, and told me his name. Well, there's this guy here who was sitting on the bench. I thought maybe it might be him. He's got his gear out. He's obviously homeless. The gear is sitting on the table there. And yeah, it's Lillian A. Goodspeed Park. Anyway, I didn't have it recording when I spoke with him. He was at the bench, and he started talking about how he don't know me, and about how people are after him, and about how because people are after him, I am the scariest person in the world right now. I believe I might have had my clandestine audio recording device on at the time. I'll have to check. But, you know, I definitely got the feeling that the guy was... When people are telling you that they're involved in a murder, and they're not talking exactly coherently, there's a lot of difficulties with that. Now, if he was in a safe place and could calm down a little bit, maybe I could make heads or tails of it, because I don't know if he was admitting to a murder, or admitting that he was there for a murder, or that he saw a murder, or that people are accusing him of murder. I mean, it's difficult to make heads or tails of it. He might be autistic and going through hell. He might be having a severe reaction. He might have just gotten let out of a loony bin after trying to turn in cops, in which case he would be still experiencing the effects of Haldol and Ativan. And the way that he's acting now is very, very Haldol and Ativan-ish. If he was in a mental hospital, or any hospital, and he was injected with that stuff, he might actually be schizophrenic now and delusional. Some of the stuff that he was saying was, like I said, I can't make heads or tails of it. But I do know the way he was starting to speak at the end of it, that if I didn't get away from him, he might possibly attack me. Now, obviously, he just needed some space. He's overwhelmed, and his speech patterns are, well, it's either drug use or schizophrenia, or he has just been through an extremely traumatic experience. But, you know, he let me know that he's not the guy that was a Helping Hands, that he doesn't know who Claire is, really. When Crash walked up to my car, I actually told him I was going to go talk to that feller and walk down there and speak with him. Now, you all know that when I get a weird feeling about people, I do tend to record it. I do tend to pull out my camera just in case, because a lot of times you guys get to see. A lot of times it's not a just in case. It does turn into the situation I was afraid it was gonna. But that comes down to number one, knowing human nature. Number two, knowing human nature. Number three, knowing human nature. Everything else is a side effect of human nature. Everything else that I have learned about the system is a side effect of human nature. I learned about all of the cheap tricks that the cops pull, or as Marcia Estrada calls them, sleight of hand. The way to avoid that sleight of hand is to have somebody who is a professional there and present actually advocating. But Penny Cooper wasn't going to do that. She was misleading Marcia Estrada, telling Marcia one thing and telling me another. And I got proof of that because I've got Marcia Estrada telling me what she was informed by Penny Cooper, and then I've got the actual words out of Penny Cooper's mouth towards me. They don't match up. Penny Cooper was extremely rude and inconsiderate the very first time I spoke with her. And right after that visit, I got to talk to her boss. I didn't know that Marcia Estrada was her boss at the time. I thought Penny Cooper was the boss. Marcia Estrada spoke with me, and then the next time that I spoke with Penny Cooper, see, I had my meetings, both of them back to back, in the same building in Sidney, Nebraska, the same exact office that I went to go see Jen Beebe and Nicole Peralta, who were the team who did exactly the same thing. They literally just changed the name and the people. The people obviously all had worked together before. Marcia Estrada, she's a licensed mental health care professional. All right, she knows her shit. She's been doing it for 42 years. She is licensed to diagnose schizophrenia. And she states outright that I am not schizophrenic. She also states outright that I'm not delusional. So these cops need to knock their fucking shit off. And when I tell the professionals that I'm supposed to go to about these things, yeah, they do need to look at the paperwork from Marcia Estrada. For me to be treated like I'm one of these folks out here who is actually very, very, very dangerous. And the fact that that man right there was talking about hurting me at the end of it. It started off with the "you're the scariest person in the world" thing, and then it graduated to him talking faster and being more threatening. He just went to the bathroom, so... Of course, the reason I'm recording, as always, for my safety and the safety of others. As I often say, I would record 24 hours a day if I could. Now, when I'm overwhelmed, there's all these people that want to give me pot and pretend like pot's going to help. No, I know my body, I know my system. I know when pot will help out the situation, and most of the time it won't. In some of the places that I was at, people were insistent that I smoke pot and calm down. Now, here's the thing. I didn't need to calm down. They needed to shut up and listen. These people promised me to help, promised that they'd look at this stuff, promised that they would listen, promised that they would listen. And they don't know nothing because they didn't listen. They were too busy giving unsolicited advice based on their opinions and the opinions of others rather than on any actual evidence. But that just wasn't just a thing in Chapel, Nebraska or Boulder, Colorado. It wasn't just racist rednecks in houses or filthy hobos and shit in Boulder. There were a lot of people who were involved in this, and many of them it was just a little bit of involvement. I did reach out to these people for help, but instead of finding out what was going on and taking a look at these things and realizing that instead of arguing, they need to fucking listen. The more time that they want to fucking argue about something that is a fact, okay? It's a fact. You can argue with me all you want over a fact. F-A-C-T. Fact. Look up the meaning of that word. Between arguing with you for 6 hours while I tell you for 6 hours I have the evidence, I need you to look at it and fucking speak up. That's not too complicated, is it? A lot of folks that I went to for help about the situation with Natalie, both before and after her death, looked the other way and allowed a lot of crimes to happen to me. And then they, of course, want my help when I can't be there to help them anymore. If I go to those places to try to help them again, like Rihanna wanted me to go back to Rawlins, Wyoming to help her. She was living with a boyfriend. She had it covered. I've got recordings with her. And I know about her boyfriend, and the guy's been talking to himself on the bench for ever since he got out of the bathroom, by the way. That's where he was and exactly what he was doing when I got here. Low resolution, but that's him sitting on the bench. His gear right next to him. He's not doing anyone any harm. Just so you all know that the police are never the first responders. Ever. Unless they just happen to be there when it goes down. The first responder is the person who calls 911. The first responder is the person who stands in between them and their victim. Be always vigilant. There's been enough shit that's gone down in front of me for me to be pretty good at feeling out a situation. And I've had to deal with enough lying sons of bitches to know when somebody's bullshitting me. On the bright side, I'll look everything up. But you know what? Some big vehicles came by. They picked up all the kids. There's no kids here at the park anymore. Since there's no kids at the park anymore, there's nobody whose safety I'm worried about out here except for his. I don't expect anybody else to stop and try to harm him, but if they do, I can, of course, be ever vigilant. Pull out my camera and start recording. Also, I gotta go to the bathroom, so I'm gonna go do that. I'll keep it recording until I get to the bathroom. You see why it is that I'm afraid everywhere I go? Why I record stuff everywhere I go? Yes, the crazies that you're afraid exist. They do actually exist. You're not wrong about those people existing, but not everybody out here is one of those people. As soon as I open my door, you'll probably start to hear him. Well, I guess you can hear me giggling and laughing now. Hopefully you understand why I'm, of course, being ever vigilant and why I'm going to turn this on again before I go out there.